So you could have a house, car, $10,000 in the bank, and we could still get you a discharge on your credit cards and unsecured debt.
Ryan Alexander.
Good afternoon, Jay.
How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Here we are again.
We meet again.
We meet again. Okay, so I have more questions for you.
Shoot.
As per usual, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, first one. What actually happens when you file for bankruptcy? What's the process? What actually happens? Like, what is bankruptcy all about?
Well, I think that's a pretty broad question. What we'll do is, I would say, when you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy first,
Right.
that is a type of bankruptcy that forgives your unsecured debts, meaning like credit cards, medical debt, payday loans. That's the most common type of bankruptcy. When people say bankruptcy, they usually mean Chapter 7. So the process of the case is we prepare some documents with you. We'll need bank statements, pay stubs, taxes for 3 years.
What if you haven't filed?
If you haven't filed, we can still file bankruptcy, but you'll need to get those done before the case is over. You'll have 5 months to get it done.
Okay.
So we take that paperwork, we prepare the petition for you, and then you come back in and sign it. That takes a few days. You know, if we do it fast, we can do an emergency one same day if we sit down with you, but usually I tell people, give us 3 to 4 days to get that ready. You'll come back in and sign it. When we sign it and file it with the court, all your creditors will get a notice from the court. They get a slip that's mailed to them getting notice. That takes about 4 to 5 days. So all the creditors that we list get a notice. And the notice is also going to have a hearing date on it. There's a court hearing that we call the 341 meeting of creditors.
Oh, right.
So that is just an interview.
Right.
I call it the interview. I tell my clients it's really an interview. It goes 3 to 5 minutes. They do 12 an hour. So they only have a couple minutes each.
The whole...
This 341 meeting, this interview.
The whole interview lasts how long?
3 to 5 minutes.
Wow.
So it's more like the DMV than court. When people think of court with a big courtroom and stuff like that. In fact, even in the bankruptcy court building, it's not in a courtroom, it's in a conference room. And they've got rows of chairs set up, maybe 50, 60 chairs. They do 12 to 15 an hour, so there might be anywhere from 10 to 20 people sitting there. Most people file as couples, right? Like a lot of people are filing as married couples. So you'd have 20 people waiting there. And then the trustee attorney who's assigned to the case, it's not a judge, but an attorney, will call everyone up one by one. We're there with the client, so I'd be there sitting with the client, and they interview them. And they're really just getting you to swear under oath that the information in your paperwork is true. From that meeting of creditors, once that's done, there's one more online class that the person completes, and then usually in 8 weeks to 10 weeks after that is when they get their discharge. So 5 weeks from filing to the interview, and then 10 weeks from the interview to close the case.
Okay, so now is this process a universal process, or is it just strictly...
It's pretty much the same in every state.
Okay.
So Nevada specifically, we have a process here. Each court has some little things they change, but that's pretty much the same in every state. So you prepare the case, file it, the 341 meeting is set, you have the 341 meeting. The trustee just determines whether or not there's any assets to sell. In Nevada, we have very good protections for our residents, meaning you don't lose your stuff. You can have a house, you can have a car.
Oh, even through bankruptcy?
Yeah. So you don't lose. Our Nevada exemption is $605,000 of house equity, meaning unless your house is worth more than $605,000, or you could have $1 million house, as long as you have a mortgage on it and you don't own $605,000 worth, then you keep that. Wow. You can keep that through a Chapter 7. So that's the most common type of bankruptcy. That's kind of how it goes. You can have a retirement account. Nevada now you can have $10,000 cash. So you could have a house, car, $10,000 in the bank, and we could still get you a discharge on your credit cards and unsecured debt.
Wow, that's bananas. Like, really. And so is that amount something that somebody, like, let's say you're in Iowa?
Yeah, that changes with each state. And in
Okay.
fact, I'll say the Midwest states, those are very low. You
Okay.
can't have the same type of exemptions. Nevada is up there with Texas and Florida for having the best exemptions. Meaning, when I say exemptions, I mean stuff you're allowed to keep and still file bankruptcy. Nevada's always been a start-over place. It's been a place where people come over to reinvent themselves, and it's
Right.
very entrepreneurial-oriented. And I can say one of the things that we've done well in Nevada is create this system where you can still keep your stuff, file for bankruptcy, and start over. That encourages entrepreneurship and risk-taking.
Right.
So that's, one of the upsides of filing in Nevada.
Well, I guess on that note, would you like to go to the casino with me?
One thing I will say about Nevada is that there's a lot less gambling cases than people would think.
Really?
They're out there. Yeah, they're out there, but it's a much smaller percentage than people think. I would say the majority of the cases are lately are lost employment.
Right.
We had a phase early on 10, 12 years ago where it was all mortgages.
Right,
for
right.
3 or 4 years, everyone was just trying to clear out mortgages from properties they'd lost or couldn't afford. And then from 2012 to 2020, it was really car loans and credit card debt. But it was usually when people either got divorced or lost their job. So it was either people in a transition period and they couldn't keep up with that. And so I think what we're seeing now, it hasn't picked back up to where it was. Bankruptcy numbers are very low. But we're going to see people who lost their jobs, got some help from the government, but otherwise lived on credit cards. That's going to be the next wave.
Okay, cool. Folks, we're out here. We're going to go to the casino and gamble.